Hey, what is up everyone, MacAndSwiss here, and one of the requests from my viewers was to show off some of the plugins that I usually use while I'm developing on Roblox Studio. So without further ado, let's take a look. So the first one that I'm gonna show off is Already Pro's Load Character. I believe this is known as Load Character Lite now, because it's been split off into a Lite and a Pro version. But this one is a very simple plugin. You just put in the name of a character that you want to insert. You can choose R6 and R15, whether or not you want to spawn at the origin, and click, and the character will be inserted into the game. Pretty straightforward. I really like this plugin and I use it quite often, especially when I'm using character models for graphics and things like that. It's just really easy to just use the plugin, insert a character, and then export it out to Blender. So the next plugin, and actually technically two plugins that I use, are both the original Moon Animator Suite and the Moon Animator Suite 2. Now, you might be wondering, why do I have both installed if the second one is the more recent one and the one that more people will be comfortable with using? And that's actually for one of the unintended consequences and one of the bugs of the original Moon Animator. And I'm going to quickly import a character just to give you a quick sample. So if I use Moon Animator 1, I can actually animate it. I can move around the joints of this character to whatever position that I want. We'll bend the arm back a little bit. And what I can actually do is go over to Home, select, click on the model itself, go to the model tab, or actually go over here to the edit box and anchor it. So now when I close out of Moon Animator, did not mean to do that, it'll actually keep the position and the pose of the character while I'm moving it around without anything like animating or anything like that. So it's actually a really quick, useful tool just for getting characters into poses without actually having to create an animation for it. And I use Moon Animator 2 for its normal purposes for creating animations. The third plugin that I use is King Andy's 3D Text Maker. Now this is a fairly straightforward plugin. You click on a part that you would like to use as your base, you click start, and you insert the text that you want here, like hello. You can choose whether or not it goes in the X, Y, or Z direction, whether it's right or left, and a couple of other fonts, as well as the spacing for the letters. And you click on create letters and it'll go ahead and create the text. And this is just a very straightforward and very simple plugin for me to just quickly make text, and I find it very useful when I need to make huge signs or something like that that requires 3D text, and I don't want to go through the hassle of like individually making each and every letter. The fourth plugin that I use is PrimeFire's Modified Tool Grip Editor. Now this one is relatively straightforward as well, so I'm going to quickly create a basic tool, insert a part, and call it handle. So what you do is that you click on the Tool Grip Editor, and you click on the tool that you want, and it'll spawn in a dummy over here, which will let you change the position as well as the orientation of the tool. And it'll reflect that once you click out of the plugin. So it's a very straightforward tool, and it's very useful for making tools actually making tools held correctly. Now the fifth plugin that I use is UltraWorks Class Converter. And this one is pretty straightforward, and it has saved my life so many times. And a lot of people may fall into the same category and may have similar experiences. I'm going to make a bunch of text buttons, and let's say that I accidentally made an entire UI and I just realized that I made it out of text buttons instead of text labels, and I want to quickly change that. Well, the Converter UI loads up and lets you quickly select some items. So I choose this item and I can convert it quickly into a text label, no problem. So this is a very useful plugin, especially if you screw up, and it's one of the easiest ways to just convert between class objects, especially when it comes to UI. The sixth plugin that I use, or I'm trying to use, is Rojo. Now, what Rojo is a little bit more complicated, and I wouldn't advise it to be used for a lot of new developers, and it's just a way to allow Visual Studio Code to be used in place of the default Roblox Studio script editor to create your scripts. And Rojo is actually a very, very powerful tool because it allows you to use Visual Studio Code, and thus Visual Studio Code lets you use things like Git and some other things to help you manage your Roblox projects a lot easier. So I wouldn't advise it for new developers, but it's something that you definitely want to look into, especially if you're trying to become a next tier professional developer. The next tool is Resize Align, and this is probably one of my favorite tools. I've used it in the past when I'm just trying to get things to look nice, especially when it comes to corners and things like that. This tool has saved my life and saved a lot of time. Now the next plugin after that is something that is actually probably gonna go away and probably not going to be used after a while because of something that Roblox is introducing into their own Roblox Studio toolset, and that would be Roundifier. Currently, Roundifier does the job of of rounding UI. So you click on this, you click on the UI element, you click on how wide you want the corner to be, and then you click on Roundify, and it'll automatically turn it into a round UI object, which is technically an image label, but it serves the purpose well. And this is actually really, really useful, as it does all the UI hidden under the hood stuff like 9 slicing and things like that for you. So all you really need to do is just click on it and everything will be done by the plugin. So this is really, really helpful, especially since rounded UI objects are really, really popular on Roblox. And so this is definitely one of those plugins that I use very, very often. So those are actually all the tools and plugins that I use regularly, but I do have a couple of recommendations as well. One of them is the AeroGameFramework, which I have tried to use in the past, and I still will probably continue to experiment with, but I don't think that it's a necessity. What AeroGameFramework is that it's a, framework for your game that allows you to use module scripts and such instead of having to create remote events and remote functions separately, and it just lets you manage your game a little bit better. It's definitely not something that I would recommend beginning developers to use, and I would highly recommend you to get comfortable with creating remote events and remote functions with Lua before diving into AeroGameFramework. But that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. As always, my name is MacAndSwiss, the most Asian brony on the internet, and I'll see you all next time.